QuickBooks Online rolled out a whole new Customer Hub a while back, but since it coincided with a total overhaul of the dashboard and how we navigated through the file, it's something that's kind of flown under the radar so far. A lot of business owners I've talked to haven't yet delved in to figure out what is featured in there. So today we're going to dive in, look at some of the features that have been rolled out, where some of them might fit into your existing workflows if you decide to implement them. And of course, as always, we're going to also be examining where some of these features could still use a bit of work. So let's go ahead and dive in. Now, it used to be that you had a customer center, and that's where all of your information on invoicing and everything like that lived. Well, now there's a separate invoicing section in that sales and get paid, and then there's also the Customer Hub. So let's go ahead and drill into the Customer Hub and see what's happening there. Now, you can navigate to the Customer Hub in one of two ways. You can either select Customer Hub from this upper navigation menu if you have it, or if you hover over all apps, you can select the Customer Hub from the drop-down menu there. Now, you can see the Customer Hub, like all of our other menus, has a whole bunch of options underneath it. And while we won't be working through every single option and all of the variables that are in there today, we are going to do a quick overview of each one of these and how it might work into your existing workflows. So part of the reason, at least my theory, on why QuickBooks actually broke this out as a Customer Hub and as a separate item is because Intuit, a number of years back, acquired MailChimp, which is the email marketing software. So basically, it looked like they were kind of trying to find a way to integrate that and to really make the Customer Hub its own place for things like lead generation, which we're seeing here, customers and leads, that really has become its own item. So this is the overview, right? This is going to give you a top line view of what is going on in your business. So you can see we have opportunities, estimates, contracts, progress, projects, unpaid invoices, and reviews. This is the flow that QuickBooks has established for how it thinks your customers should ultimately interact with this system, okay? Now you can see I don't have all of this turned on and operating because this is all just a sample file, but this is all information and all features that you have available to you in your file. So let's go ahead and just start in on this. So customers and leads is where we find not only all of our existing customers, but there is also this section up here that we can toggle to, which is leads. So let's go ahead and do that. When we toggle to leads, you see right here, we have a few different options for how we can possibly bring people in as leads into our business. Now, we can actually connect our email, basically, and then people who email us can be funneled into this system. We can enable referrals, which ties into reviews down here. And that is basically when we send a customer an invoice, they can also receive a survey where they rate our product or service or whatever it is that we're providing to them. And at that point, they have the option to refer us to other people, other business owners that they might know who might benefit from our services. The last option here is to manually add or import people from either an Excel spreadsheet or a CSV file. Now, if you have a third-party platform that you're using, I, for example, use Google Forms to create a client intake form and get people's information, I might opt to bring that client intake information into QuickBooks by importing it from the CSV or Excel file so that I can bring these people into my QuickBooks ecosystem and start interacting with them that way. Okay, so this is definitely worth diving into and seeing if, again, any of this might kind of work into your existing workflow or even make your existing workflows a little bit easier, okay? Opportunities is also basically just this, right? So opportunities is the prelude to leads. Once we bring somebody into this system, they become a lead, okay? Now, here are some other items that also show up in other sections of our books. We have estimates in here. Now, I did a video on estimates a while back. I will be doing a subsequent video shortly here that is going to be a little bit of a deeper dive on estimates and progress invoicing. Okay, so estimates can be a really critical portion of getting a new customer. You can basically use QuickBooks to put together a whole guess, right? A whole laundry list of what you think your product or service will end up costing the customer, either to get started or on an ongoing basis. Okay, so estimates are a really phenomenal tool to help you interact with a customer and to offer them some really solid data on what the fees for using your product or service will be. Okay, it's also a great way to kind of lock in the fact that they have an understanding of it, because there is an approval process built into estimates. So you can make it so that they have to approve the estimate, creating a paper trail that basically means that if for whatever reason down the road they say, I didn't approve this charge, you have some receipts to bring to the table to back yourself up. Okay. So this is one of the areas in our books where we can create estimates. Okay, so you can create a new one right here, in addition to being able to do that in the sales and get paid section of your books. Okay, now this might be something where if you are just bringing in a new customer and issuing an estimate to them, it might be a little bit easier to do that from here. Another honestly kind of cool thing that I've seen come out of this is proposals. Okay, so basically, if you go in and say create a proposal, you can select a customer. So I'll just select this one here. And when I create a proposal, it brings up basically a whole template that I can use to then communicate with this customer. Okay, so we have their information right here. We have the proposal date information. We have this right here. Now, this is customizable. I can click in and change this and make edits to it. Okay, then I can add an estimate in here. Okay, so this is where we're seeing these integrations and this workflow start to come together. So basically what I would want to do is I would want to create an estimate for this customer, or create a new estimate right here, and then add that estimate into this proposal. So it basically brings all of that together. And then it allows them to sign and say that they understand the scope of the work and that they accept the estimate. Okay, so again, this is really phenomenal, because if you have a third-party software that you're using for this outside of QuickBooks, something like HoneyBook, for example, this might be a way to bring this all in-house. One of the things about Intuit and about QuickBooks is that they're always kind of starting to cannibalize from other industries. So for example, they used to integrate with Melio for the purposes of bill pay. Well, eventually they built out their internal bill pay system. They severed their relationship with Melio, and then they started offering the service as a subscription themselves. Okay, so we see this starting to happen all over the Intuit ecosystem. This is an example of them going for some of that third-party HoneyBook and other items where you're doing basically these same things. You're creating estimates or proposals, or even using them as a lead and a funnel for your business, right? So this Customer Hub is starting to replace some of those features that are happening elsewhere, okay? Now, one thing that I'll say, if you already have your system set up in one of those third-party softwares, it might not be worth uprooting everything and bringing it over here, right? I would highly recommend slowly and carefully examining whether or not a migration is the right choice for you. But the nice thing is that if you're already paying for a certain level of software in QuickBooks, a certain subscription level, I personally always aim to get as much out of that payment as possible. So if you can, slowly over time, bring your workflow internally and have it all happening on one platform. A, that's easier for you because you're not having to make sure that all the integrations are talking together the way that you want them to. And B, you're also not paying separate monthly subscriptions for all of these different softwares. Okay, so anywhere that we can streamline is great, but I do highly recommend ensuring that whatever is built in here in QuickBooks is going to work the way that you want it to. Now, obviously, that's a very different conversation if you're just starting your business and you don't have any of that infrastructure built out yet. This is a really great opportunity to get this up and going from the start, okay? I'm going to go ahead and close this for now since we don't have any estimates that we can add to a proposal like this. But that is one item that we can work through. Another one here, and I'm actually personally pretty excited about this one, is contracts. Okay, so every time I work with a customer, I have an engagement letter that I send out to them that outlines the scope of the work, my rates, who owes what, right? So you can actually create a contract here. And the nice thing, at least the thing that I like, is that you upload a PDF document. So I have a PDF document that I use as my engagement letter, and I of course fill in all of the specifics for each individual client. But I could upload that here, right? And then send it off to a client in QuickBooks and have them sign it. Now, you can have multiple signers, okay? So that could be a customer here, and then you could enter information, email, first name, last name. You also can have authentication if you want to have a certain level of security when it comes to sending this document out into the world, okay? You could even have multiple signers. So you could make it so that if there are two business partners and they both make decisions for the business, you get both of them to basically virtually sign this, you get them to sign this contract so that everybody is on the same page and you know that everybody has read and reviewed it, okay? Again, a really great option if you are doing this on a third-party platform. Maybe this is something that you can bring in-house to allow you to really have the full picture of what's going on with each individual customer in QuickBooks, okay? Again, we're just going to go ahead and close this without saving because this is just a quick review. All right, so now here is one item in QuickBooks that I actually kind of had high hopes for when they rolled it out. And so far, in my opinion, it still needs quite a bit of work, okay? But that right here is appointments. So here's the thing about the appointments in this particular section of QuickBooks. If you are used to using a software like Calendly or even Zoom scheduling, you are probably going to be disappointed by this particular iteration. Now, I'm recording this in August of 2026. Who knows what will happen and what rollout changes we're looking at in the coming months and years, okay? But as of right now, this probably isn't a feature that I'm going to be using a lot in my own business. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't have applications for other users. I am already a Calendly user. I have my calendar set up. I have my different appointment types set up. All of that is set, okay? Now, what I don't do through Calendly and what I was honestly hoping would be an option through QuickBooks is the ability to basically have an appointment set up where people are billed before the appointment. Okay, since QuickBooks is what we're using for our invoicing, that personally to me seems like an absolute no-brainer and something that they should have built in here. As of this recording, they do not have that. Again, fingers crossed that that updates and changes, but that is a current limitation of this feature. Another one is that while you can set up your schedule basically, and when you want people to be able to book appointments with you here, it is not as comprehensive or detailed as some of the other scheduling softwares. So you can absolutely set availability right here. And you can see there are lots of options. So you can say that you are unavailable or have specific availability on specific days. You can also set up a general weekly schedule of when you are available. And as you can see here, you can not only say, from this time to this time on a certain day, but you can split it up and say only from 10 to 1 or 3 to 5 or whatever it happens to be. Okay, and that is then reflected in when people can schedule with you or when you can schedule appointments with people. The other limitation that I personally see right here when it comes to this kind of feature is that we do not have the ability to sync this with another calendar. So Well, if I was only using this as my scheduling platform, that would probably be just fine. If I have another platform out there where people are scheduling with me, these two items are not communicating. So basically what I would have to do is I would have to block time on whatever calendar I'm using externally, whether that's a Gmail calendar or an Outlook calendar or whatever it happens to be, to ensure that it would be available if people were scheduling with me through this particular platform, okay? Now, this is not something that is just available to people. They can't just click in and go and schedule an appointment with you without your authorization. So don't stress too much on that. But what you can do is you can say schedule appointment right here, and then you can either invite somebody to schedule an appointment, or you can schedule an appointment manually yourself. Now, you can have either an in-person or a video call. If you do the video call option, this is actually all through Intuit. Intuit has apparently created a video conferencing option internally within their software. It is not sending you out to Google Meets or to Zoom or to any other platform. So you can select a customer. We'll say Brian Chen. We'll go ahead and keep that there. We'll say next, and then I get to schedule the appointment with him. Okay, so I get to pick a time. So I'm going to say it'll be an hour-long appointment, and we'll put it on the 11th, and we'll say 10:45 works for him. Okay, so what happens when I do this? If I schedule this appointment, it's going to show up on my books, okay? So we have him scheduled here. You can see, you can join the video call. You can also copy this link so that you can email it to the customer separately if you would like to, okay? And then they will be invited. Now, they should have the same options that you do for rescheduling and canceling if anything comes up, but just know that since this one is a slightly less tested system, you may have a little bit more manual work on your hands, okay? Now, again, this is phenomenal if you are truly using the QuickBooks system as it is intended to, right? If you are bringing everybody who is a possible lead in and importing them and having all their information here, this might be a really nice way to book appointments with people. But if you're using something external, this might not be the way to go. And again, if this is something where you were able to set a price for a particular meeting, like let's say that for me, I do software trainings for my business, right? I have 2-hour software trainings that I do for people. If I were able to set it up so that they were receiving that invoice and paying it before the appointment even happened, wow, would I be impressed with this feature, right? Because that's something that Zoom and Calendly offer as an add-on at this point, right? That's not built in here yet. I do say yet. Fingers crossed that they will listen to any feedback and hopefully start to build this out more robustly, because I do really see potential here. It's just not there quite yet, okay? Now, the final option here is reviews. And this was part of what was already here in the leads and opportunities section, okay? This is the ability for basically customers to review your business. They might be reviewing their interaction with you. They might be reviewing your service, your product, what have you, okay? You have to go in and enable reviews in your settings, okay? So if you're in this screen, you can just click enable reviews. If you're not, you will have to go up into your settings menu and turn this on, okay? But once you allow reviews, people can leave them, all right? Now, as you can see here, it can be the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? You might get nothing but 5-star reviews, or you might get nothing but 1-star reviews, like any other software or platform, okay? So this is something where I do really recommend making sure that you are ready to receive this feedback and understanding that that is something that might be visible to other people as they are looking for and at your business, okay? So that is not to say don't do it, because I can really see where this would be a phenomenal tool to business owners, right? You might want to enable reviews so that people can then refer you to their friends if they like you, right? But again, just know that like any other platform, that can work against you if they're not a fan of yours as well. So there is a lot here and a lot to unpack. And while I see that there is definitely potential it's not quite where I would want it to be yet for me to abandon some of the other infrastructure that I personally have built for my business. Okay. That being said, get in here, play around, see if there is something in here that works for you. If you have any questions, please do leave those in the comments below. I'm happy to help. And thank you so much for watching.